A scattered dream that's like a far-off memory. A far-off memory that's like a scattered dream. I want to line the pieces up, yours and mine. Kingdom Hearts. How did this series ever even come to be? How did a game featuring a kid with huge feet, Disney, and Final Fantasy characters become so popular, and just what does it mean to me personally? Let's take a look back, rewind time by 2 decades, 20 years ago, to when the first game was released and took the unsuspecting gaming world by storm. Hey guys, your boy Onyx, and today let's talk about our favorite franchise, Kingdom Hearts, which is all about the power of friendship, keyblades, and darkness.
Darkness. Keyblade.
Heart Keyblade.
The ideas for Kingdom Hearts initially came to life when Shinji Hashimoto, a game producer at Squaresoft in the early 2000s, and the father of Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakaguchi, discussed creating a game that would incorporate the freedom of movement in a three-dimensional plane a la Mario 64. It's kind of wild to think that the title inspired even Kingdom Hearts. What a truly revolutionary game. Both creators, however, lamented that only characters found in Disney properties could come close to matching Mario's popularity. Luckily, there was someone else in the same room that overheard the conversation, someone who would take charge and push the series forward. That someone being Tetsuya Nomura, lover of friendship and zippers. He volunteered to lead the project, and both Hashimoto and the Gooch agreed to let him direct to his heart's content if the idea ever took off. No pun intended, I said hearts, seriously. At the time, it just so happened that Squaresoft, now Square Enix, and Disney shared the same work building in Japan. So, Hashimoto was able to pitch the idea directly to a Disney executive in a chance elevator ride. Development began in February 2000, with the story originally going to be far more simple, aiming for a target age that seemed more in line with Disney's main audience. However, Sakaguchi told Nomura that the game would be a failure if it didn't aim to reach at least the same level as Final Fantasy, which led the narrative to be developed further, and further it did. The man clearly watched too many shonen anime in his time. Fun fact, Keiko Nobumoto was a scenario supervisor for the first game, and this fact makes me incredibly happy as she was one of the best talents in the anime industry, writing Cowboy Bebop, Wolf's Rain, and Tokyo Godfathers. Sadly, she passed away on December 1st, 2021, but her memory will live on in these fantastic works. Finally, on March 28th, 2002, Kingdom Hearts released in Japan and later in the US on September 17th, 2002. The title received some great reviews and players of all ages were engaged by its unique take on action and role-playing elements. But what surprised people the most was the unexpected combination of Disney and Final Fantasy. These two media darlings could not be any more different, yet here they are, working together in ways that no one thought possible. As mentioned previously, the story of the game had to be expanded, and the game had certain story beats that were a bit more complex than the typical Disney fare of the time, with some ideas that felt genuinely unique. I remember thinking about what it meant to have a heart and the idea of the heartless, and that was honestly pretty dang good. As a 14-year-old, the game really hit all the right notes. I enjoyed Disney as a kid and loved anime and Final Fantasy as a teenager, so this was a very crazy union that made some sense to me. And I was pretty excited about it too before release. I remember reading previews on Electronic Gaming Monthly for the game and thinking about all the possibilities. And I somehow still have that same magazine that had the preview in pristine condition, kind of crazy. It's actually really cool to look back and see the impressions before the game released. That bit about Utada and the voice actors, super cool. One day I might do a video looking at all my old magazines. Anyway, once I owned the game, I used to spend hours in all the Disney-inspired worlds, going from corner to corner, enjoying almost the entire journey. I remember that I was so hooked, I would take my memory card, remember those, to Puerto Rico when I would stay with my dad during the summer. I'd play my file on my brother's PlayStation 2 for hours and hours, alongside Final Fantasy X. These two games were such a huge cornerstone of my early teenage years, and for good reason. Man, those really were the days. Anyway, Kingdom Hearts became gaming history overnight, selling over 6 million units as of 2006, with the entire series hitting over 35 million units sold in its 20-year history across multiple consoles and generations. So the first game was a huge success, and Nomura even included a teaser to the second game as a way to gauge interest in a potential sequel when the original title hit Western shores. So, how did that sequel do? When Kingdom Hearts 2 launched, I was giddy. I could not wait to play the game. I even took time off of work, which I was already working, to pick up my pre-order early in the morning from GameStop. Or was it EB Games? I don't remember. This was 2006 and my memory fails me. Anyway, the game launched in Japan on December 22nd, 2005, and in the US 3 months later on March 28th, 2006. And it received even more critical acclaim than the previous title. The game was a perfect sequel in every way, expanding the lore, the story, and the combat in ways that made sense and felt organic. At this point in time, fans of the series couldn't ask for more. The game received many upgrades in the combat system, in the graphics, the overall pacing, and with the aforementioned combat changes making it incredibly faster and tighter than the previous game. It even hit some emotional cues that I personally wasn't expecting. For example, when Sora finds Riku in Ansem's body, that genuine emotional reunion, it hit me, and I remember shedding a tear, and...
Close your eyes.
Riku! It's Riku. Riku's here. I looked for you.
Come on, Sora. You've got to pull it together.
I looked everywhere for you.
I didn't want you to find me.
But it was him that was helping us, wasn't it?
Damn, looking back to dialogue isn't good. Moving on, Kingdom Hearts 2 had an ending that just felt like a proper climax and conclusion, with Kingdom Hearts 3 appearing to potentially be an amazing looking sequel after Kingdom Hearts 2's crazy cliffhanger. And we will talk about Kingdom Hearts 3 in just a moment. In between the releases of Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, Chain of Memories launched on the Game Boy Advance, a title that tied the story between both the main games. Chain of Memories was successful, but unfortunately, this success began a trend that did more harm than good, in my opinion. Since the franchise became increasingly popular with children who wanted to play the game on a handheld of the Game Boy Advance, Tetsuya Nomura wanted to create spin-offs that would add further to the lore and the story. And games like 358 by 2 Days and Birth by Sleep were released on handhelds, the Nintendo DS and Sony PSP respectively. This was the point where I, and I assume many of my fellow Kingdom Hearts fans of the time, fell off. It was just a bit too much to ask to keep up with a story that was continually being told on multiple consoles. I mean, let's just break it down a little further here. In order for you to fully understand the story, you would need to own a PlayStation 2 to play Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, a Game Boy Advance for Chain of Memories, and then a Nintendo DS for 358 by 2 days, and Recoded, even though that was a remake of a cell phone title, Coded, a PSP for Birth by Sleep, and then a 3DS for Dream Drop Distance, which was the final game before development started on Kingdom Hearts 3. And I'm not counting Chi or Union Cross or whatever the hell it's called, even if it wasn't hugely important to the lore and story. Don't at me. I don't have anything but my own anecdotal evidence and some information that I pulled from a YouTube community poll in which I asked our viewers when they fell off the Kingdom Hearts wagon. And based on that data, it seems like 50% of the voters fell off right after Kingdom Hearts 2. I wonder why that is. I personally didn't get back into the series until I played Dream Drop Distance, and that was really only because I happened to own a 3DS, otherwise it would have been another title that I would have missed until the HC remasters were released. Regardless of this annoyance though, the series did continue to truck along and sell very well, picking up new fans along the way and building up to that inevitable conclusion, the ever-elusive Kingdom Hearts 3. Finally, after the release of Dream Drop Distance, we thankfully wouldn't have to wait much longer to finally lay our eyes on the third entry. The year 2013. The PlayStation E3 conference. Sony is on a roll. The PlayStation 4 has been revealed. In their conference, Square Enix unveils the latest Final Fantasy Versus 13 trailer, with a pre-recorded Nomura introducing said trailer. It looks amazing and surprisingly next-gen at the time. We see the logo, then pow! It changes, and it's now Final Fantasy 15. Wow! Incredibly hyped. Nomura comes up again and says there's a teaser for an upcoming title. Fade to black. We see the Disney logo. People lose their minds. It's time. Kingdom Hearts is finally going to where we've been waiting for since the end of Kingdom Hearts 2 all those years ago. Finally, Kingdom Hearts 3 is gonna come out. And then, after seeing that trailer, we waited and waited and waited for 6 years. E3 after E3, trailer after trailer, the HC remasters ported over to the PS4, and an extra chapter, the prologue of Kingdom Hearts 3, 2.8 final chapter prologue, where we get to play as Aqua, are released. And that's a whole lot of games and a whole lot of time between announcement and final release. But to his credit, Nomura did state that the game was revealed far too early, as he was very busy with Final Fantasy 15. Square Enix, however, wanted to show fans a tease of the game that they've been waiting for years. So all of these events and releases occurred before we could finally get our hands on Kingdom Hearts 3. But when we finally did, all hype thrusters were on blast. This was it. The moment fans had been waiting for. It was the end of a story that started back in 2002, 17 years prior to the release. We've all gotten much older, much wiser, different people altogether, but here we were, yet again, about to reunite with Sora, Donald, and Goofy. Kingdom Hearts 3 would release on January 25th, 2019 in Japan and January 29th, 2019 in the rest of the world. The game was received well critically, and it sold even better, with over 6.7 million copies selling as of April 11th, 2022. Finally, topping the sales records of 6 million copies previously held by Kingdom Hearts 1. To me though, it was fine. I personally was a bit let down by quite a few different reasons. Reasons that we, as a channel, The Game Resume, went into in an in-depth review a few years ago. Worth checking out if you guys are interested. It'll be right up there somewhere in the top of the screen and in the description. But regardless, it was safe to say that at this point, I felt Nomura a bit more than he could chew, and perhaps I was done with his type of storytelling for this series. The rehashing of the Disney movies with worlds like Frozen and Tangled feeling a bit, well, boring. And the real story of Kingdom Hearts being left to linger in the background up until those last moments of the game. Kingdom Hearts 3's major problem is a genuine pacing issue, one that truly made the game feel like a slog to get through. But I can't lie, I still felt excited to see the end, as this was indeed the finale of a saga that started oh so long ago. Xehanort's story was truly complete, as Nomura promised, and the conclusion did feel like it was earned for the most part. Yet there was a door that was left open to something else. What we now know is called the Lost Master Arc. So, Kingdom Hearts 3 came and went, a DLC title Remind released, and if you beat the game and met certain criteria, you were handed a secret ending that looks surprisingly similar to Nomura's original vision of Final Fantasy Versus 13. So, where does that leave us now? I've been having these weird thoughts lately. Like, is any of this for real? Or not? Kingdom Hearts 4 was revealed not too long ago from the time of this writing, and the game looks pretty different from what came before. Set in a realistic looking city reminiscent of Tokyo with a more, well, realistic but kind of anime look, it seems like what's to come will genuinely stand out from what we saw previously in the Xehanort saga. What kind of Disney worlds will we see? Will Star Wars and Marvel properties finally show up? Will Final Fantasy characters actually matter again? Only time will tell. But Nomura and team have a lot to prove with this next entry, at least to me. I do remain hopeful, somehow, and I am looking forward to this next title. I mean, let's be real, with a clean slate, maybe Nomura can write a better, less convoluted story that can deliver on the promise from the original game, a story worthy of Final Fantasy. And this is the first time I mentioned the fact that it's convoluted, and this is why. A Japanese player posted this diagram online connecting all the points, all the dots, all the everything that is Kingdom Hearts. And I mean, just look at this. This is wild and hilarious and amazing. And I get it. Anything that runs for longer than 5 or 10 years is going to look like this if you have an interconnected story. But this is wild. I mean, come on. Come on. I want to end with a thought, though. I absolutely loved Kingdom Hearts as a franchise for many years of my life. The fact that the beginning of Sora's journey is now turning 20 years old kind of baffles me. And even though there were many ups and downs, at the end of the day, Kingdom Hearts will always hold a special place in my heart. The definition of Sora's character arc is self-growth, learning to value friendship, and the ability to remain strong in the face of literal darkness. Even if the latest entry was quite the letdown, even if the overall story was a bit more complex than it needed to be and added unnecessary details, it still tried something different. A story that was told over the span of 17 years, over multiple consoles, titles, and all throughout that time, Sora has now become an icon. I mean, he joined the Smash Bros. Roster after all, culminating that game's history as well. Many people, unfortunately, could not see this end, just like fans of any long-running media, as I'm sure individuals who loved the titles may have died before 2019, when this arc finally concluded and when Sora joined Smash. But I can sure hope that they at least felt the magic of Kingdom Hearts while with us, and that Sora's journey, alongside Riku, Kairi, King Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, helped their lives shine just a bit brighter. The future looks promising, but all we can do is wait, because only time will tell if Kingdom Hearts 4 will live up to the legacy. And hopefully, it'll be an even better title that will show us the true potential of the journey, the true potential of the series. Thanks for watching. My friends are my power!